We've got a brand new mock draft out for next season. It's from Ryan Wilson, and he has Will Anderson Jr., the edge rusher out of Alabama, going #1 overall, but 3 quarterbacks in the top 10. C.J. Stroud going 3. Will Levis, the great quarterback at Kentucky, transfer from Penn State, he goes #5, and Bryce Young goes #7. Let's bring in Barrett Sallee, who helps us out with the Cover 3 podcast, covers all things college football for us. And let's start with Will Anderson, who, I mean, you got to believe that he would have been the #1 pick had he been eligible, but still just 20 years old. What do you see for him next season at Alabama?
Yeah, unless he gets injured, he's going to be the #1 overall draft pick, barring trades or people trading up for quarterbacks or whatnot. But this guy would have been the #1 draft pick, like you said, after last season. And I had him 3rd on my Heisman Trophy ballot and considered actually putting him #1 just because I think he's the biggest difference maker. He's so good, Chris, that Alabama had to take him off the field during the spring game because he was screwing everything up for the offense. That's how good he is. So the guy's a threat off the edge, the fastest get-off I've seen in college football in a very, very long time. He absolutely is a Heisman front-runner. I think folks will call him a dark horse just because he's a defensive player. No, he is a front-runner. He is one of the favorites. He should be mentioned alongside his teammate and 2021 Heisman Trophy winner Bryce Young because Anderson is that good.
But the quarterbacks are the favorites at the top of the Heisman list and the favorites to go #1 overall in next year's draft, surprisingly or not. Only 1 quarterback taken in the first 2 rounds this year in the draft. Ryan Wilson has 3 in his top 10 for next season. C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, and Kentucky's Will Levis. But a year ago, we were sitting here talking about how Spencer Rattler was going to be a top 10 pick, right?
We were, and he still might be, depending on what he does at South Carolina. But C.J. Stroud at Ohio State, first year starting, was absolute nails. I think we know what he's going to do this year. He's going to lead an offense that puts up 40 points a game. Bryce Young at Alabama certainly, has a chance. I think for NFL folks, you see the arm strength, you see the resilience, and the fact that he did all that he did last year, winning the Heisman Trophy behind one of the worst offensive lines in the country, tells you all you need to know about just how good Bryce Young is. But I love Ryan Wilson, and because I love him for putting Will Levis at 5 in his mock draft. If you don't know Will Levis, the Kentucky quarterback, get to know him. I've got Spring Game Overreactions, a story coming out on CBSSports.com, and in it, I wrote, before even seeing Ryan Wilson's mock draft, that Will Levis is going to play himself into the first round of the NFL draft. He's that good. He's big. He can run. He was 7 of 8 in the spring game, had a touchdown pass. Last year, he was sort of thrown into the fire early last season. Maybe not a lot of folks expected a whole lot out of him. But at the end of the year, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, and I think he'll be one of the best quarterbacks in the country when all is said and done in 2022.
Yeah, Pete Prisco loves him as well. Of those quarterbacks next year, and it should be a loaded quarterback class in the draft, Levis is the guy that Pete Prisco likes the most at this point. We saw so many Georgia Bulldogs get drafted, 5 in the first round, a record 15 in all, yet somehow they have a bunch more players in next year's first round mock in the top 10. How about the talent they have coming back, especially on defense?
It's ridiculous. You look at that defense, 5 players in the first round, none of them were named Nakobe Dean, who was the best player on, maybe the best defense we've seen in a long time. But Ryan Wilson in his mock draft has Jalen Carter #2, Kelee Ringo #4. Jalen Carter might have been the best defensive lineman they had last year. And yes, that defensive line did include Jordan Davis. I think Jalen Carter would have been a first-round pick along with Will Anderson at Alabama this year had he been draft eligible. And Kelee Ringo's a guy who made obviously the biggest play of the national championship game, that pick 6 that iced it in the final minutes. But Kelee, I think for the last year and change, has been working toward that moment. Kirby Smart praised his work ethic not only before that title game, but certainly after and throughout spring. He's a leader. He's a ball hawk. He's going to do great things. And then Nolan Smith, we saw him put the lights out on Bryce Young in that final play of that national title game. Highly touted recruit, a guy who's going to be the centerpiece of a defense that I think is going to get after a lot of teams, a lot of quarterbacks this year. So, yeah, I mean, Kirby Smart's done what he was supposed to do at Georgia. He's built a culture of competition that has created the depth that he needs to replace stars with stars. So, yeah, the defense might take a little step back. It won't be a huge one, though.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.